Welcome to What's on Your Bookshelf with your hosts, Denise Russo and Samantha Powell.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of What's on Your Bookshelf. This is a life and leadership podcast where we are living the pages out loud on the books that are on our bookshelves. The book that we are walking through currently is called Atomic Habits by James Clear. It's a best-selling book. If you haven't checked it out yet, please do. James also offers a lot of free materials on his website, jamesclear.com, including the habit of having daily small little snippets of information sent to your inbox if you're interested in that as well. We're moving right along in this book. If you are new to listening to our podcast, we encourage you to listen to back episodes to bring you up to speed, but it's not necessary. If you can't do that, you can still join us where we are today. We are in law number 4 of James Clear's book. This law number 4 is about making our habits satisfying. And this chapter is going to be a really great one because it's talking about how to stick with good habits every day. And part of the way that we do that is that having satisfying feelings help us make progress. Sam has some really great and amazing tips to share with us today that she has lived out loud in her life over our time reading. So just to give you a little bit of behind the curtain before we get started, these episodes, the one you're listening to today, we recorded this well before you're listening to it, which means that we've been living these pages out loud already for quite some time. So the tips that Sam is about to share with us are tips that she has been building for, I think, about 40 or 50 days already. So Sam, super happy to have you here. I can't wait to keep learning with you. I know some of your secret tips and have been applying them myself, but can't wait for you to share them with our listeners. So you ready to get started?
Oh, I'm super excited about this one. This was the chapter for me that made me take some action and really get going. So I'm excited to talk about this one because I don't know, like you said, I'm living this one out loud, and it's been good. It's been a good journey. So hopefully it'll inspire some other folks to, I don't know, get in the game with me here.
That sounds great. So as we start out this chapter, he really is talking about some stories about little tiny things that people do to have habits, like literally making a habit by doing something that triggers them, or even how they clean their house by doing simple things like putting things away after you take them out. But you were talking about habit tracking and using a tracker, and you've made a habit tracker for yourself. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what that process was like, what really triggered you to want to do it, and the success that you've had from it?
Yeah. So this chapter is about how to stick to good habits every day. And the big thing that James stresses is making progress satisfying, right? And when I read this, it made me think of it's about the journey, not the destination, right? Like I'm trying to get somewhere, but I need to enjoy the journey. It's not I will be happy when I am this identity. It's that every day I'm working towards becoming this person. And I am this person because every day I'm casting a vote for that, right? Like I had this realization this morning, right? So one of the things I put on my tracker, like that I'm trying to get to, is that I want to be an active person. I want to be somebody who feels, like my body is strong and feel like that's the satisfying feeling I'm going for, is that like I can, run with my son when I need to. I could hit a baseball bat really like strongly, like, right. I feel strong and, active in my body. So like, right, I'm going from couch to nothing here, right? Like I'm going from like zero things. And so I've been using the tips in this book to work towards that. But I had this realization literally as I was walking down the steps this morning, coming down to make my tea, to sit down to record this with you, was that I'm now somebody who works out. Like I am, and I haven't been for years, and I'm not doing anything crazy. I'm doing very, very small, little tiny workouts, but it started with, okay, I want to be this active, strong person. So it started with, what are the things that are going to get me there? So I started tracking, let's just think about the things that are in my way. Let's put my workout clothes and take them on every day before I get dressed for the day, right? That's how it started. It was, yep, I do this. I did my workout clothes. I'm tracking this on a physical check mark. I put on my workout clothes. I took off my workout clothes. And in between is this morning routine that I want. Well, now that I went through like a whole tracker, Actually, I made like a bigger tracker. I updated it because I didn't like exactly how it flowed. But I went through like 40 some days worth of tracking on this tracker. And I realized as I went to make a new, fresh, clean one, because I decided to do them month by month, it would be easier to keep track. So as I started the one for October, I was like, okay, I've done 40 days of changing in and out of my clothes with 0 workouts in between. But that's now not very hard. It's really easy. So now I'm going to insert a very simple workout. And the workout for me is literally like do a couple push-ups, do a couple squats, and do a couple sit-ups. Like day one, I went to do a push-up and I couldn't do it. I think we talked about that a couple episodes ago. I was like, oh my gosh, Sam, how did you become this person? Right? Like that's crazy. But now I'm on day like 15 or something of inserting a little like push-ups in between. I'm not doing magical push-ups. I'm not even doing good push-ups. But I noticed today, I've been doing this for 2 weeks in a row. And I realized I have worked out. They're little workouts. They're nothing fancy, but I have worked out for 2 weeks in a row. I'm now someone who works out because I've been doing these little tiny things. And I track this, right? It's check. I did it. So now I get 3 check marks every day. I changed into my workout clothes. I did my little tiny 2-minute workout because, right, I'm utilizing the 2-minute rule from a couple chapters ago. And then I change back out of my clothes because I get dressed for the day. And it's like, oh my gosh, all of a sudden I'm now be somebody who works out. And eventually I'm going to be somebody who works out really well, right? Efficiently, good, get the heartbeat up in like a bigger way. But it was the tracking part that helped me realize as I went to check, I walked down the stairs and I was like, okay, now I get to check this off. I was like, ooh, I'm at 45 days of building this identity. Or I think of like 47 or whatever, building this identity. I'm now somebody who works out. Like, good for me. I did it. And that's not what I was setting out to do, right? I'm still a ways away from being an active and strong person. But guess what? Those push-ups aren't as hard. I can actually do almost a real one. Not quite. We're not there yet. 2 weeks does not get you there from nothing, but I'm a lot closer and measuring that progress, right? And that's and I'm not tracking the progress of my push-up. But mentally I am, right? Like mentally it's, oh, this doesn't feel as difficult, right? Or, oh, I can get a little bit lower to the ground and come back up a little bit easier. And so it's this tracking of the progress that's getting me towards there that is helping me stick with the good habits. Because it's like, well, if it only took me 2 weeks to be like, oh, the push-up's not that bad now, right? Like I don't feel like I can't do a push-up. I can. They're not pretty, but I can. But how long is it going to take me? So now I got this curiosity sparked of, well, how long is it going to take me to do a really good push-up? How long is it going to take me to do 5 really good push-ups, 10 really good push-ups, right? And then what's that going to do for this ultimate feeling of I want to feel really strong, right? Like I feel stronger. Like I'm casted in so many votes. I now feel stronger. And it's just this check, 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 check. And I'm seeing the progress. And so now the journey is becoming kind of fun for me, right? It's not fun to do push-ups, but it is kind of fun as I'm looking at this tracking of this journey to say, oh yeah, go girl, you got it. You're moving in the direction. You can feel it because I'm tracking how far I've come.
So you made an interesting statement just a few minutes ago where you said, all of a sudden, I am a healthier person. But here's the funny thing about all of a sudden, you are not an overnight success. You are a 45-day in progress person. And so the book talks about how Jerry Seinfeld reportedly used a habit tracker as well. And he called it never breaking the chain. So when he was writing his jokes in his habit tracker, he would make sure that every single day he wrote a joke, even if they were bad. So like your example, you do a push-up, even if it's not the greatest push-up, you're doing this thing consistently over time. We talked about this a couple episodes ago that Dr. Caroline Leaf talks about how you may have heard the saying that it takes 21 days to create a habit, but it may take 21 days to establish a habit. It takes more like 6 months to really cement and make that an unconsciously competent habit that you can do repeatedly over time. Like you were mentioning about coming down the steps and checking off a box, but I'll bet that at some point soon, when you get to 90 days, you really won't need that paper to check the box. That check the box is the satisfying thing, which is law number 4, make it satisfying. You like the act of checking the box because it makes you feel successful. But I think that you already don't need to check the box, right? Because you know intuitively what's on the list. 40 days into it, you know what's written down there.
Exactly. And I didn't. I used to have to, right? When I started this list of things, I used to have to read it every single day to know what comes next, right? It's the habit stacking. Like I do coffee, I do whatever, like I do check. I'd have to read it every time. Now I don't have to read it. I can get through the entire front to end routine without looking at it whatsoever. But it's so satisfying to be able to like go through and be like, check. Like look at all these things that I did. And because I'm tracking progress over the long run, right? So the habit tracker that I made for myself, and I'll put it out there so people can get it. We'll put it in the show notes. But the habit tracker that I made for myself also, like at the very beginning, has this column to carry the count, the ongoing count going on, right? So like, it's not this month was over and I did 30 or 31, good for me. It's, nope, I did 28 and I'm going to carry over the number 28, right? I did miss, right? There were a couple days that just didn't happen, but I'm going to carry that number over because now I'm into like really big numbers on some things. Like me reading, I read every single day. It's a habit. I don't have to track it, but I track it because I love it. Actually, my Kindle tracks it for me, but I'm at day, what am I on? 500 and I don't know, probably 50-ish of reading every single day in a row. And I love that. I love that. That's an identity that I want to have. And it's so satisfying to be able to look at this count and this tracker of yeah, right. And there's this, and it hits all the laws, right? It's easy. It's obvious. It's sitting on my desk. I come to my desk every single day to do this morning routine. And it's right there. So it's super obvious. It's super attractive because I'm like, gotta keep checking. Like, look at how good that looks. Well, this like nice chain, right? Don't break the chain. Like it looks wonderful. And then it's super, super satisfying to sit here and go, gosh, like I did this many days. Like I feel so accomplished on the progress, right? And that's what it's about the journey and making the progress attractive, so that you keep going. This is about continuing to do the things that you want to do.
Yeah. And you made a comment about making it attractive. That's something really big in this chapter about making habit trackers attractive. And by being attractive, it becomes satisfying. I remember a couple of years ago, I love handwritten planners. And I've been wanting to develop one of my own. It's not quite done yet, but it's almost there. And I bought, I think, about 10 or 12 planners one year to try to pick out what were the things I liked the best out of all of them. And they were the ones that the internet so-called said were the best planners out. But you have to find a system that works for you. So the planner that I use to track my habits is the Passion Planner. And Scott, let's make sure we put a discount code in the show notes for everyone if they want to check it out. But if you want to check out the habit tracker that the Passion Planner offers, when you click on that link that Scott will share, you can download it for free. They're so confident in their product, you don't even have to pay for it. So we're not trying to sell you on anything. We're just providing resources. And that one is for free. Sam can share hers as well. Now, I've started to develop one myself that I've really enjoyed over the last, I think I'm on now 3 weeks in a row with this new kind of version, which is basically the top of the page says just work on you, which I probably should say work on me because it's my planner, it's my tracker, but it starts with the date. So the day of the week and the date. And then there's a section that starts for me with a daily intention. Because if I don't set a daily intention before I start my day, then I'm just sort of starting a haphazard bunch of hours that lead me to going to sleep at night. I try to set a daily intention that if there's only one thing I do today, What is that one thing that I have an intention for? And maybe it's not something about doing, maybe it's about being. So if maybe my daily intention is to just be at more peace today, or maybe my daily intention is, like you said earlier, is to be a healthier person today. Whatever that daily intention is, it sits there on my desk right in front of me next to everything else I have going on around me on the desk, that I can see my daily intention. Now, for me, it's been very important for me over the last weeks to start tracking things I'm eating, because for me, I'm not a snacker. I don't have the chips and the gum or can reach for that like you do. My problem, Sam, is that I don't eat because I get stuck sitting down all day long. So I don't stand up and I don't eat. And so what ends up happening is my body goes into this hibernation mode. And over the years, I've become unhealthy or gained weight by literally starving myself. So I have on my habit tracker, what am I eating at what time and how much am I eating? And one of the things that I started doing, I think on the last episode, so it's fairly new for me, is that if I go to grab something really quick that I know is bad for me, I look at it and I verbally say, you are not good for me. And I throw it away, or I verbally say, you are going to make me healthy.
Yeah,
and
you're using the point and call from earlier in the book, right?
Yes.
Where you look at it, you grab it, like it's that physical, like, nope. Like,
yes.
Like I might still choose it, but it's not right.
It's kind of like the Marie Kondo thing too, right? She's my favorite secret fan we keep talking about. She'll say, okay, she'll hold the thing in her hand and say, you brought me joy at one time, but you no longer bring me joy, and I need to gift you away, or I need to discard you, or whatever, or you still bring me lots of joy, and I know why I want to keep you. And so I really think probably next year we're going to have to dive into the life-changing magic of tidying up, because her book is about so much more than decluttering your house.
It's like no one will be surprised when we have doing that book because we talk about it so much. But
what will surprise them is that it's not about just cleaning your house. But so any case, so back to my tracker, I track the meals, but I also have started to track on the piece of paper my sleep, because I don't wear a Fitbit. I wear an Oura ring, Oura. And in fact, probably, I guess, Scott, this is going to be the episode of discounts. I think I probably have discounts for the ring.
Here's all of our recommendations.
I'll give all the recommendations. So this Oura ring, it already tracks my sleep for me, and it actually helps put me to sleep. But it tracks my heart rate. It tracks what my quality of sleep was like. But even though I'm looking at a chart, for me, there's something still about me writing it down. So I write down on the habit tracker, do I have a lot of smiley faces next to my Z's, or don't I? And what was it about my last night that was disruptive? Because I have terrible insomnia. I wake up at like 2:00 in the morning, and because of my ADHD brain, I'm continuously thinking. So it's hard for me to shut it back off again. I have on here if I took my vitamins, and I think this is a good habit to start for me getting into my older years, because every morning I have all my vitamins lined up, but there was a day not long ago where I was like, oh, I can't remember if I took that one. So now on my habit tracker, I do a checkbox. Okay, I took my vitamin D3, I took my B12, I took my vitamin C, whatever it was. So I write down my habit of taking my supplements. And then there's a section I have about self-care, because it's one thing to do the things we have to do, but what about the things that we need to do? Like, did I actually stand up from my chair and take care of the blood flow in my legs? Did I actually take time and moments to express gratitude for the things and people that I love the most? Did I do things that are healthy, like drinking water? I track how much water I drank. And then, there's the exercise piece. That's probably my big weakness, failure point still, because I have a whole section on my page that talks about how much exercise did I actually take. And usually I get to the end of the day thinking, I'm glad I don't wear a Fitbit, because I wouldn't come close to it. Now, when I go to Disney World, which, for those of you listening know I go a lot, oh man, I beat that goal every time, because it's easy, it's attractive, it's simple, it's satisfying. You walk around the park and instantly you're up to 10,000 steps, no problem. But when you're stuck in a home office by yourself, it's really hard to create those habits. So I love, Sam, that you started your habit by simply just changing your clothes until you could stack on top of that after I change my clothes, I'm going to now exercise.
Yeah.
After I exercise, I am now going to write down that I exercised or whatever.
Yeah.
So you've become a master at habit stacking, and habit tracking and stacking can be super satisfying. James goes on to talk about how you can recover quickly if your habits start to break down. I'm curious for you. You've gone 500 days with reading. You've gone 40 days with your habit tracking. What could happen if something disturbs that habit process for you?
Yeah. And that's life, right? Like things disturb the habit process. Like it just happens. And so like James's mantra here, right, is it's don't break the chain, and then it's never miss twice, which I literally put at the top of my habit tracker. Those are the words I put at the top because that's what I think about is, yes, life gets in the way. Life happens, right? Like I've been really focused on my morning routine and going through it by a certain time of day, but I adjust that target sometimes, right? Like I want to have everything done and ready and I'm sitting down and I'm productive by 9. But guess what? My son gets on the bus at 8:55 or whatever. So sometimes that 8 o'clock hour isn't what I want it to be. And that's okay. So then it's like, all right, well then by 9:30, it'll all be done, right? Or hey, this last weekend, one of my best friends, in the whole world got married. And the day after the wedding, I was not up at the time I wanted to be up, right? Like, but that's okay, right? So you give yourself grace, but it's never missed twice because, James says missing once is an accident, right? Or a purposeful design, but missing twice is the start of a new habit. And so it's that mantra of, yeah, I missed it. Okay, give myself grace. Life happens here. Or maybe I just shift it, like, right? My morning routine happened at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, whatever. Like, right?
Mm-hmm.
It just, that's what happened. I still check the box. That's great. But if I missed it entirely, I'm not going to miss it again tomorrow, right? That's my mantra that I keep, really steady with is I won't take a 2-day break. I won't do 2 X's instead of an X and a check mark. And that's okay, because guess what? At the end of the month, I could have 27 instead of 30, and that's fine. That's still 27, right? That's 27 votes for the person I wanted to be versus if I had gotten in my head and said, oh, I missed it. Like now it's shot for me for the week. It's got like, right, you lower the expectations sometimes. It's fine. Like, who cares? You missed once. No big deal. You're going to get right back at it. And guess what? When you have this whole chain and like there's a little bit of X's here and there, you kind of don't notice. The whole thing still filled out, right? Like I still thought about it every day. I still, did the thing, or I'm going to get caught up, right? Like one of my things is a daily journal, and I use it for gratitude reflection. I use it just for reflection on what I did, for progress. What did I do yesterday? I do it in the morning for yesterday. What did I do yesterday? And like, how can I be grateful for that progress that I made, or for those moments that I had that were lovely, or for, my partner, my husband, my son, my family, my friends. Like I can use that as like a reflection point. Well, guess what? I did not, I missed it because my friend got married and then Sunday was crazy and we had other things and I missed it. But guess what I did Monday? I wrote Sundays and Mondays, right? Saturdays and Sundays. I caught up, and you can do that too. So like, did I miss it? Yeah, but I didn't miss it for long, right? Like I can get right back in it. And that's, I think, the key is having a mechanism to not miss twice, to get back in the game when things happen.
To get back in the game. That's a really good point, because James talks about how it's not about the number. It's about the purpose behind the number. So when you think about that, think about what it is you are measuring. He gives a really great example that maybe we round this out and talk about a work scenario. So oftentimes at work, especially if you work in a metrics driven business, you're measuring certain things that drive your business. But are they driving your business to success, or are they driving your people to success? So he's talking about in the book an example where they're measuring daily revenue, but daily revenue in this example was from a restaurant. And so they were bringing in the revenue, but they weren't also combining that with a measurement of satisfaction. So just because people were spending their money in the restaurant didn't dictate if they enjoyed the meal, which meant it didn't dictate if that person would ever come back again or tell others that they also liked the meal. So I would just caution you, if you're listening, to take a look at what you are measuring. What is the purpose that you are measuring the thing you're measuring, and does it need to be stacked with something else that you're measuring? Now, we've given examples all day long about brushing your teeth, exercising, changing your clothes, those kinds of habits. But if we talk about it in terms of working, the dark side of tracking a particular behavior, according to James Clear, is that we become driven by the number rather than the purpose behind it. So if your success is measured by quarterly earnings, you will optimize sales and revenue and accounting. But if your success is measured by a lower number on the scale, then you'll optimize for a lower number on the scale. So there's pitfalls to all of that. This is a great ending to this chapter, to really think about what are you measuring and why. If you want better sales, then you need to look at also your internal trust and productivity of your teammates, because that's what drives your sales. So what is the driver? So
and I think the big thing here, and the thing that like jumps to my mind, if somebody's like, well, how do I make sure I get the right target? Again, this comes back to behaviors. What is the behavior? What behavior do you want to reward, right? What behavior is getting you towards what you're doing, right? Like, it's really about that. What is it that's putting you on the right journey? That's it. And James says, when a measure becomes a target, it ceases to become a good measure, right? The goal for me isn't to just put my clothes on every day and that becomes the thing that I celebrate. Nope. It's a path to get me to where I want to get to, right? It's a behavior that drives me in the direction of the identity that I'm going towards. And that's what we got to think about when we think about good measures, is something that's driving the right behaviors that get you the results you want to get to.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think as we finalize this episode, we're talking about outcomes here, folks. So if you look at the outcomes you have in life, there's likely some measure that shows you what that outcome is. And if you want a different outcome, then you have to do something different. And sometimes doing that alone is really hard. Let us recommend to you that if you've never engaged with a coach, this might be a good time for you to engage with a coach. We can help you. If you'd like to message us, we'd be glad to talk with you about coaching, what it means and how it can help you. But what we're going to talk about next week is the power of accountability partnership, because that can really change everything for you. Sam and I became, unbeknownst to ourselves, in March, accountability partners to one another. And I can tell you, my life is so far much better for it. So Sam, thanks for being an accountability partner to me. I can't wait to dive into next week, because this is an area where you have helped me so much over this year. I'm looking forward to talking with you about that chapter next time.
All right, can't wait. It's going to be good. I always call these accountability buddies. Everybody
accountability buddies. Oh, I like that. All right, my accountability buddy, on behalf of you and myself and Scott Miller, he's our other accountability partner, and even Andy Hughes in the background, we thank you so much for listening to our podcast. Please subscribe and share. Let us know what's resonating with you, and we look forward to seeing you next week on another episode of What's on Your Bookshelf.